All right, everyone. So welcome to the first part. It says part 3. I didn't even change it yet. I changed everything around so that we're going to be doing the artist research first. So we actually already, if you were in class, you were there with us. You did this already. And we analyzed this artwork using the modified formalist critique method. I slowly walked you through it as we looked at this together. And if you're viewing this later, you can always go to this reference slide presentation. And below here, these are the questions that we answered together as a group. So you can always go back and take a look at that. So you did this once already, and now you're going to look through my resources, which I will show you where they will be after we finish here. You'll look through my resources and choose one artwork that you haven't looked at yet, that we haven't talked about in this class so far. And you're going to do the same thing on that artwork in 2 slides. So these are your 2 slides that are in your process journal. So this is the slide number 1. The directions are at the top. Answer each section thoroughly. Be sure to record at least 4 reliable and academic research sources. Use the library website for this. You can choose to complete this activity digitally directly on these 2 slides, or you can do a layout in your sketchbook, and examples will be in future slides. If you choose to fill out these next 2 slides, make sure to make your answers a different color so that I can see my question versus your answer, because that makes it easier visually for me to read. So you'll go through all of these steps of completing anything that's highlighted in yellow you need to complete. So step 1, you'll record the title, the artist's name, their country, their life, and what is in 1 to 3 sentences, what does their artwork look like? The second step, and that is more specifically, that is the one piece of artwork that you chose from this artist that you're going to insert a photo right over here. That is where you will describe on number 3 what it looks like. So in 1 to 3 sentences, say this painting has the colors of blah, 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 and has this and this and this, and looks like this. Okay, so just be very brief and say just quickly what, if you were describing it to someone, if they were not able to see it, that's how you would describe it. The step 2 is you're going to talk about the literal qualities of this artwork. So you're going to, is it supposed to be realistic? If yes, how realistic is it? If not, how abstracted is it? Is it cartoonish, etc.? So there's a lot you can talk about with realistic versus abstract there. And we've already talked about abstract artwork before, so hopefully you can build on that knowledge of realism versus abstract. And then the second one is what literal qualities appear to be most important about this work? So is it important that this is supposed to be realistic or not realistic? Or is it important that this work is abstract? Or is that just kind of like a secondary thing to viewing it? And the third step is to look at the function of this work. So now we're talking about the functionalism. What are the possible functions of this artwork? So there's a couple of examples that I give there, but it might be different. What aspects of the object make it that way? And does the viewer need to know the function of this artwork in order to appreciate it? Why or why not? And I changed this slide slightly. So if you're seeing a different slide than this, it's okay. If the question's not there, don't worry about answering it. Because I think this is a question that I added later. If you want to add that and answer it, that's fine. But you don't have to. Step 4, the formal qualities or the formalism. What are the 3 specific elements and principles of design that make this artist style unique? And be specific. And what design qualities appear to be the most important? Step 5, expressive qualities or emotionalism. What emotions and moods are expressed? What ideas and symbols are being conveyed? And what does the painting make you feel? So that's a pretty easy one to answer. And then you are going to do some research. So here's where you'll really have to get your 4 sources. So you are not able to just get your 1 or 2 resources and be done. You've got to have 4. So one of your sources will be from your photo of your artist, their actual photo if you have it. If it's a super old artist, you won't have their photo, and you can just put in there not available. So that won't be a source. But for most of you, you'll have a source of a photo or a painting of the artist to put in this box here. So that's one source. Then the next source, two sources you'll have, is the source of your artwork. Okay? Then you have to have two more sources. Those are going to be used for this right here on step 6, the relevant research, because you have to find out 3 facts of the artist's life that influence their artwork. So not just Picasso liked soup. P.S. I don't know if Picasso really liked soup or not, but the point is they have to all relate to his artwork. So for example, you could say this person's artwork has a lot of pain in it because they were abused as a child. Okay, so that could be an example of how something traumatic that happened in their life shaped who they were as an artist. You could say this person, Romare Bearden, here's a good example. I'll use an actual example. Romare Bearden used music. He loved music, and he was very into music, and he was a musician too. He wasn't just an artist. So he expressed that in his artwork. So that would be a good fact about him, was to talk about his connection to music and go into a little bit more detail about his connection. So don't just do one sentence for each of these facts. Talk about 3 things about the artist that somebody would need to know. The next one is the cultural significance. So what impact did this artist have on the culture and society around them in that time? So for Romare Bearden, that would have been early 1900s, early to mid 1900s. Okay, so you got to think about everything that was going on in the world in that time. So you've got to draw from your knowledge of your history classes too. Read about the artist, read when they were alive, and then the last part is what art movement is the artist associated with, if any. Most will be associated with something or other. If you just Google somebody's name, it'll come up on Wikipedia what art movement they're associated with. Super easy. I don't love Wikipedia as a source, but it is good to cross-reference your other sources with and look at some of their articles that they've got linked on there. So Wikipedia is like a good starting point, as well as our library references, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So now you've gone to step 6, you've done the research. This is probably taking you a long time, and you're like, Ms. Tabor, oh my gosh, I want to be done. Well, guess what? You almost are done. So, and you also have the photo of the artist already. You'll get a quote in your research from the artist that reveals their beliefs or philosophies about life or their artwork. If you're having difficulties finding something about their artwork, you can just put something about life in general that they said in there. You'll have your 4 sources put in there. And then the last thing you'll have to do, step 7, is to determine your relevant theory about this artwork. So first of all, on number 1, you're going to have to tell me which aspect and why is it the most important. Imitationalism, which is, I'll go back and we'll see those steps again. Functionalism, formalism, or emotionalism. And then once you decide which one you think is the most important, then you'll tell me what your overall theory is about this artwork in a few sentences, 2 to 4 to be exact. So let's go back one slide. So step 2 has imitationalism. So do you think that the realism or the abstractedness of this artwork is the most important quality? If so, then imitationalism would be your answer for number 1 on step 7. If you go to step 4 and see the formal qualities, that's, I'm sorry, I need to go back one. Step 3 and go to the functional qualities. Is the function of this artwork the most important to the overall knowledge of this artwork? Is the fact that this object is a book, or the fact that this object is a decorative piece, is that the most important part of it? Okay, so then back to step 7, number 1, formalism, step 4. Is formalism the most important part? the elements and principles and the design qualities does this artist use? Is that the most emphasis that the artist wanted you to get out of this artwork? Or the last choice, emotionalism, right here, step 5. Is it the emotion and the symbols and the ideas and how the artist feels and how they make you feel? Is that the most important part when you're looking at this artwork? So you've gone through all these steps. You've looked at the artwork in all kinds of different lenses. So you've looked at it through a literal lens, a functional lens, a formal lens, and an expressive lens. Then you're going to choose which lens should I look through it, to gain the most inspiration out of it. So that's what your answer will be for number 1, and please explain why. So if you're going to say, well, I think it's emotionalism because, and then tell me why. And then number 2, you'll tell me again the overall theory. You say, so tell me in a little bit more detail. Now that I did research and I know X, Y, and Z about the artist. So at first you could say, oh, well, when I first looked at the artwork, I thought that the literal qualities were most important. But now after doing my research, I know that all of these books that I read and the website said that this artist was all about emotionalism and conveying moods and symbols and ideas. So I'm going to switch my theory to the fact that this artwork is expressive because this artist did this. That would be a great answer for number 2. So you're just kind of defending, okay, well, I thought this and then I thought this, and here's what I think now that I've gone through all of these steps. Okay, it's just kind of a conclusion and a draw together of all of your work. And it's going to take you a little bit of time. So I've got 3 class periods devoted to this. I'm also going to introduce the final project, the class period after you watch this video, which isn't so long, I know. So you will have to kind of balance these 2 things at once. But I want you to be thinking about the final project while you're looking at another artist's work, because I want you to gain some inspiration from the artist that you're researching, so that you can really start to get a feel for, okay, if somebody were looking at this about my artwork, what would they say? And yes, you guessed it, we are going to do a modified formalist critique on a classmate's artwork. Very excited. That's going to be our critique for our final project. So you'll have to really think about this when you're using it, because somebody else is going to use it on your artwork and you're going to use it on someone else's. So get flexible. So here's the Huron Library website, and here's some examples, and you can look at the reference slides here if you want to look at them on past students who have done some research. This is not the same research as what you're doing, but these are just really good student examples of a couple students that just by chance both happened to have researched Kehinde Wiley. They weren't supposed to, they could choose, but these 2 students were just really outstanding, so I put them in there for that. And that actually is it. I really don't have that many slides in here for you, because you can choose to either type the answers to this out in here, or you can go ahead and say, I'm going to write a lot of this in my notebook. I'm going to print out some photos. It's whatever you feel comfortable doing. I am fine with either. If you choose to end up not typing these slides out and instead doing a layout in your sketchbook, I just ask that in your process journal that you paste in another slide, you put in another blank slide, and then put in a as big as you can possibly go, like that big photo of your layout, so that I can really read it. Like that one is this one's a little blurry still, but like this student's, I can read theirs perfectly. So as long as I can read it, you can put a photo in, and you can always put like detail photos in too. You'll have to just paste it in your process journal in addition to what you already have in there. And then just, obviously I'll know you didn't fill out the slides because you put it in your journal instead. Okay, it's a lot, y'all. Please have fun with this. Let me know if you have any questions about it.